well, I really have to share that because people need to see that. Because so many times people think, oh, you can have a life after addiction, but it's not going to be all that great. And I wanted them to see not only can it be great, it can be better than you ever imagined.
Yeah. The AfterMeth Podcast is an outreach tool to help men who have sex with men break free from the addictive patterns associated with chemsex, otherwise known as crystal meth or TINA. I'm your host, Dr. Dallas Bragg, a former crystal meth user, now recovery coach. Here you will find a repository of tools and resources intended to eradicate the epidemic that is plaguing our MSM population. Please note that the views expressed on this podcast are not to be taken as medical advice. Also, we will be talking about drugs and sex, so if you feel triggered to use, stop listening and contact your local emergency system and or your support network. Let's go. All right, welcome back to the AfterMeth Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dallas Bragg. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for choosing the AfterMeth Podcast. Your time is valuable, and I know there's a billion podcasts to listen to, so you chose this one, and I appreciate that. We don't have any sponsors here, but what I would ask you for is the currency of your engagement. So please subscribe, like, share the podcast, listen to it. If you can, listen to it twice, once on Apple and once on Spotify, if you want, just so we can get the algorithm saying, hey, people like this podcast, so we can get it out to more people who really would benefit from hearing the topics. So thank you again. Don't forget, there's a supplemental study guide that comes out for every episode. The link to that will be in the show notes. You can get that in your inbox, in your email, if you subscribe to my blog at drdallasbragg.com. All right, no further ado. I met our guest today on Instagram. His feed, his page caught my eye, as you will see later. It will catch anybody's eye, I think, man or woman, really. But Kevin has a triumphant story of chemsex recovery, and today he's going to introduce himself. But today he's a model. And I'm wondering what his skincare routine is as I look at the pictures, but we'll get to that later, maybe. that's a subtopic. But Kevin Davis, can you tell us about yourself?
First of all, thank you for having me on here.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Kevin Davis. I'm 56 years old, and I will be 7.5 years clean from meth next month. So I about a year into my recovery, I was approached by a photographer, and he asked me to do a shoot for romance book covers. My initial response was, romance book covers. I thought of Fabio,
Fabio. Yeah, Fabio.
Yeah. I was like, people do that, So, and then I was just thinking, this guy's just got to be hitting on me. But then I looked at his site, and he was really legit, one of the best. And I almost backed out because that was sort of my go-to, backing out of anything out of my comfort zone. The old me would have backed out for sure. And I decided, this is a new me. I want to do things differently. So I decided to step out of my comfort zone and do the shoot. And luckily I did, because it sort of took me on a whole new path. I've been modeling for romance book covers for about 6 years. I've sold over 230 book covers now. And I just moved back to Atlanta about 6 months ago. And now I'm working my way into sort of the fashion industry now. And so I'll be walking in Atlanta Fashion Week in about 2 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, when I saw your Instagram page, I was like, romance novel covers.
Right.
I mean, I think of my grandma, my aunts,
Right.
They would have the romance novels just piled up.
Right.
And I used to kind of fantasize about those men when I was growing up.
I imagine my following is mostly gay men and horny grandmas.
Yeah. I love horny grandmas.
Right.
I love that. So, I mean, I guess in this day and age that, we still have paper books, but I'm also guessing like on Kindle, you still need a cover.
Right.
For the book, right?
Correct. And they sell most of the romance books on Amazon now. So
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting that, with AI, because I've seen all these ads for your new AI boyfriend,
Right.
that they
Yes.
that
Yes.
they wouldn't just create an AI man. So good for you for,
So
beating out the AI.
things are sort of taking that turn. We're getting less and less sales for real people.
Uh-huh.
Photographers and models are feeling it right now because people can just generate their own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They can take my photo and somebody else's photo and generate something.
Yeah.
And they're really sort of
Interesting.
stealing property from other people to do it. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations for 7.5 years.
Thank you.
And can you tell us more about your story? How long did you use? What was your story like?
So I used for about 20 years or so. Um, it originally started, early on when I first came out in the clubs, I would do some recreational stuff, mostly like X and things like that. But then, meth was very prevalent, and then I gave it a try a couple times, and it was at the time, I didn't realize I was undiagnosed with ADHD. So
Mm,
it was sort of like the perfect drug for me. It felt like it made me feel focused. It made me feel like, I could get projects done and things like that. So I used it mostly just for things like that, just so that I could focus on something and get it done. Um, it eventually became um, more sexual later on as I started having sex using it, then but it didn't immediately become a sexual thing for me.
mm,
I think when I gradually moved to smoking it, seems like when it really took it up a step, as far as the sexual thing. My growing up, I had a really, really uber religious family. Sex in general was sort of a taboo thing. So I was never comfortable with sex in general. So the idea of gay sex was even worse. So I had a lot of really major hangups as far as sex. So sex before I ever did drugs really was not that great for me. You know,
mm,
I had all these voices in my head and all these insecurities and things like that. So I feel like when when I started using meth more for sex is when sex became good for the first time. It sort of made those voices quiet down. It made me feel more confident, more, like it lasts longer. All these things that before I couldn't do, I could do.
mm,
So there was no way that I wanted to have sex without it after that because it was never really good before. And now it was super intense and it felt amazing. So after I started having sex with it, I never really had sex without it again. If I didn't, if I wasn't high, I wasn't going to have sex.
mm,
So it
mhm,
became a real, like it rewired my brain completely to where eventually I wouldn't even get aroused unless I was high.
mm. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah. 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 It was interesting I was reading back in our messages on Instagram, and you used the word dewired.
yeah,
Your brain was dewired for
yeah,
sex. Yeah. I hadn't heard that before, but that's maybe a more accurate
yeah.
description.
It's like when I when I got um, in recovery once I got clean, I just didn't really have the sex drive anymore. But I
Mhm,
did notice like right
mm,
after I got out of rehab, thought, well, maybe I can get that sex drive going again. And I put in a porn and
uh,
immediately started
mm,
thinking about using. And I
yeah.
realized how intertwined they were. And that scared me because I thought, shoot, I can't allow this to put me back on that same path.
Mhm,
So I really just stayed completely celibate and tried to not even think about sex for a good, 4 or 5 years.
mm,
And
mm.
then just recently, at the 7 year mark, have I been able to sort of like get that spark going again
Yep.
somewhat. Um,
Mhm,
I think I just needed to have some new experiences that were not with using, and just slowly sort of try to get it back. Because it scared me to try to jump right back into that, because I thought, well, I might just go back down that same road. But I feel like it's starting to come back. So I'm just trying to take it slow and not allow myself to get super stressed out about it either, because I feel like I'll get in my head and then that will make me want to use again. It might trigger me.
Yeah. Let's talk more about that. I want to put a little pin in that one for sure, but I
Right.
want to go back to a couple of things you said, and it's interesting. I'm getting ready to I'm scheduling another. We did one podcast on ADHD. I'm scheduling another with another psychotherapist about neurodivergency and addiction. It's a rising topic. Because we're seeing more and more neurodivergent people in general, but also in chemsex addiction and meth addiction. Is the neurodivergent guys, like you're saying, is you used it first to focus. You kind of
Yeah.
used it in a
Yeah.
medicinal way. Um, and I think that's common. I'm
Yeah.
talking to more and more men who are like, I do it for sex, but also I need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on ADHD medication now,
Okay.
and I was able to get back on it after rehab, and it luckily is not a trigger for me at all. It doesn't make me want to take extra or make me want to do meth. When I use it, it just makes me feel normal. It seems like it's a different high for me. It's not a high for me. It's like I feel normal when I do this.
Yeah.
If I take too much Adderall, I don't like that feeling. So luckily, some people I know after meth addiction can't even do any kind of stimulant.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing which one you're on too, because that was going to be my next question. Is it
Yeah.
Adderall?
So it's I was on Adderall. Right now they have me on dextroamphetamine, which is a generic, but I think it has one component of Adderall.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important that some guys I talk to are scared to death to take Adderall, or some are taking it and it's triggering them. But
Right.
I've heard from plenty of men who say Adderall saved my life. Adderall saved me from chemsex addiction.
I feel like I was self-medicating to that part of it, and so now I don't feel the need. And when I am on Adderall, it makes me feel calm and content, and I
Mm,
don't. My mind's not going, so I'm not thinking about needing to do something. And I feel like before, when I was unmedicated, I had this constant sort of, I was not content. I needed to feel like I was needing to do something, and that caused me to want to go. And I feel like,
huh.
you know, maybe go out
Interesting.
and party or whatever it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I hear that from men too. A lot of, I can't even sit and watch a movie, or
Yeah.
I can't sit
Yeah.
still for a second, and I can't stand
Exactly.
being by myself or whatever. There's this urgency.
Right.
Interesting.
Exactly.
So the Adderall just kind of takes you to baseline, it sounds
It
like.
does. It does. It makes me feel calm. And it's like I'm completely fine to be doing what I'm doing in the moment instead of my mind going, thinking about other things.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's important for us to hear. Um, Also, the porn use, the porn triggers, the slow sex start. So, for you listening, there's this big hurry for us to get right back in porn because that's what we're used to using to get off. It's a quick way. And
Yeah.
I would say to you, in recovery, there's no quick way. There's no shortcut. Meth is a shortcut. Chemsex is a shortcut. Like you said, you had, and this is very common too, these sexual insecurities. You were in your head so much
Yeah.
about sex that you couldn't enjoy it. So common, right? Meth is the shortcut to bypass all of that instantly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it also, I feel like, because it made it seem so intense and amazing, even normal sex even if I'd had normal good sex, it wouldn't have measured up.
Mhm.
But eventually, because of, like the more I used and the more I was around other users, like when you get two high people together to have sex or whatever, so many times you're not on the same plane. You're on
Mhm.
different levels of high or whatever. So it can go wrong so many times. And so in my head, after watching porn for a long time, you start having unrealistic expectations of what
Mhm.
sex really
Mhm.
should be like.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't measure up, that can really distort your view. So
Yes.
it might have gone really well, but in my head, if it didn't measure up to what I was so used to with porn, I think
Mhm.
in my head, I was in my head again, thinking it didn't
Yeah.
go well.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Exactly right. Exactly right. And for these guys who have grown up with pornography in their hand, and access to, Raw Fuck Club, and I've mentioned all these studios. I need to stop giving them credit on the
Right.
podcast. But these studios who their sex is modeled after what you get in a chemsex scene, okay?
Right.
Um and then when, like you said, you get hungry for that, and that's what you want. That's what you think you're going to get, right? And
Right.
that's just not normal.
It's not.
It's not normal. Yeah, okay. I want to talk about your sex, your journey with sex, but what was it that, we always have to ask kind of what was it that triggered you, triggered you to stop? What was it that brought you into recovery?
So I, I, I finally got arrested for possession.
Okay.
I was living in Atlanta, and I grew up in Alabama, so all my family's in Alabama. So I went all that time without my family even know I used drugs.
Mm,
Even though the last 6 months before I got arrested, I was jobless, homeless, crashing on people's couches or sleeping in my car.
mm,
Um, so my quality of life had just really gone downhill. And, but the reason every time I thought about maybe getting help, I thought about, well, if I do, everyone's going to know this dirty secret I've been able to keep for so long. And because I had had years of chronic pain as well, that's really when uh, my using went from recreational to everyday. I
mm,
started having a lot of neck pain, which 10 years later, I eventually had two neck surgeries. But
mm,
by that point, I was already addicted. So I continued to use afterward. But I was, um, able to keep it quiet, or like, at least a majority of people didn't know I was using, except for the people that I hung out with.
yeah.
Um, and if, but everybody knew that I was dealing with chronic pain. So if they had known that I had an addiction to painkillers, they probably wouldn't have a problem. But because I have IBS-C, I just can take one or two pills and I'm constipated. So I don't,
Mm,
I was never able to really take those for pain. So I also looked for other things. Meth was something it already worked for me as far as the, you know, the ADHD and everything else. So I ended up just using that whenever I was hurting. And so
mm,
I started using it a lot more. But what I didn't really realize too is that, I would get really high, and as when you get really high, your muscles tense up. You're not sleeping well and everything like that. So when you come down, you're hurting even worse. So I'd have
mhm,
this rebound pain, and then I would just have to use it again. Um, so that's how it really got really really bad closer to the end. Um, but I never would get help because I thought, well, I don't want people to know I'm a junkie, you know.
mhm,
And I
mhm,
was also so afraid that if I do go get help, I will still be hurting. So I know I'll need to use again,
mm,
but then everybody's going to know
mm,
my business. And I just
mm.
wouldn't do it. So
Wow.
the best thing that ever happened to me was I got arrested for possession. Um, I stayed in jail for 50 days. I wasn't able to hide it anymore.
Mhm.
And so the 50 days I was in there, I was able to sort of like get it all out of my system. Part of my sentencing, I decided to do rehab. Um, by that point, I was just so excited to be at rehab after being locked up for 50 days. So, like that felt amazing to have my own room, my own bathroom, all that. So at that point, I was really um, sort of I had a really good attitude about it. I was hopeful that I could. And I realized this is probably going to be this could be my one and only chance at a second chance. So I was
Mhm.
going to try to do everything I could. My family was shocked, but they were very supportive. Luckily,
Good.
I'd never burned any bridges with them. I didn't steal from them. I didn't do all the stuff that a lot of people do. So I still had the support of my family, which was great. So I did rehab. I got arrested in Tuscaloosa when I was visiting someone. So I stayed there for rehab. And then I just decided I don't know anyone here. I'm going to change my phone number and start over here. So
Mm.
I stayed there for about almost 7 years and just rebuilt my life.
Mhm. Mhm. Nice. Yeah, I mean, going to going to jail sometimes is, that's for me too. Is the best thing
That
that could have
saved me.
happened to
Yeah.
me. Is the only thing that was going to stop me.
Yeah. I mean, I thought at the time that, my life was over. I
Mhm.
thought there's no way out of this mess. I didn't see any way out.
Mhm.
Even in jail, I was thinking, well, am I going to kill myself? I'd never even thought that before. Like I just couldn't imagine having to, no one knew yet. Like I sat in jail for 2 days before I even called my family because
Mhm.
I just couldn't get there, So, but once I did, and once my family was supportive, I kind of realized, okay, this is my chance to try to get better. Um, and once I got all the drugs out of my system, I actually started noticing that the pain was not as bad, and it eventually
Mm.
started getting better. And now it's just a discomfort. So I realized it was a rebound pain I was getting from being high.
Mm. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
You were,
It's another
eh,
way. It's another way for your body to tell you you have to have those drugs, you
yeah,
know?
right, right, right. We'd use to, in your case, literally numb the pain
Yes.
that we cause by the drug.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if it's, emotional pain, whatever it is, loneliness or isolation or whatever, need for connection, whatever we're doing the drug for, we're causing more loss of it. So we need more
Yes.
of the drug to get more of it.
Right.
Yeah. What a cycle.
Right.
What a
Yeah.
cycle. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask how your family reacted. And so were they surprised though? Because if you
Oh,
were, yeah, they were.
very, very much so. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Um, like they had, I just thought that they would have suspected by that point and just were in
Mm,
denial, but
mm,
they really just didn't have a
mm.
clue.
I see.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see. Well, your age too probably has something to do with that, right? Your late
Maybe so.
40s.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Same
Yeah.
here.
And
Same with
because
me.
I had never really, like it wasn't something I had done when I was young that they knew about anyway.
Hmm.
So, yeah, they just didn't expect it at that point.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I want to point something out too that perspective, right? Like it's interesting. There's you listeners, some of you will go to rehab and you think it's horrible, you think you're trapped, you think, you kind of put this label and story on it. But if, like with you, Kevin, you spent 50 days in jail. So when you got to rehab, you were grateful to be there.
Oh, completely. The situation that happened for me was exactly what I needed.
Mm,
Um, I needed the fact that I sat there in jail for 50 days. I was in there with, 50, 60 other guys. Some of them were in there for murder. I mean, it's just, I had never been in trouble before. I needed that experience, and I needed time to get the drugs out of my system completely also. And I needed time to sit there and think
yeah.
about it all. And then, when I got to rehab, I got there and there were so many people there that didn't want to be there. And I was ecstatic to be there at that point. And it is
Yeah.
really all about perspective. So that was like sort of the best scenario for me.
Yeah. If we could just, like, I remember when I was homeless at the very beginning, and I told this story on the podcast about working at this damn taco restaurant, right? And I was finding places to stay the night or whatever. I remember walking. It was like 2:30 in the morning, and just walking down the street or the road or street in Charlotte, uptown, because this lady had let me use her massage. I don't know, her massage parlor or something for a few nights. I got to sleep in there
Right, right,
because she felt sorry for me. Anyway,
right,
I'm walking, and it's the summer, and I was just so grateful. I was so grateful to have a job, and I was so grateful for the air and the stars. And I was looking around, and I was like so happy. That was one of the happiest moments of my life, and I had nothing.
right,
I had
right, right,
nothing. And I just think if we could just get ourselves back to that place of right after a relapse, or right after when you're homeless, when you first start getting in recovery and you have nothing to lose.
yes,
If you could get yourself in that state of mind, how much better life would be, and how much, you're grateful for everything, right?
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and the have hitting rock bottom for me was the best thing too. It's like I needed that. I needed to have a place where everything I got was a blessing from that point. Like I had nothing. I didn't want to go back to jail. Um, I had seen all my friends get really comfortable with going to jail. It was part of their comfort zone, and I'm like, I don't want to become that person.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't want to go back to being homeless. Luckily, I had a car, which made it so much easier. At least I
Mm,
could sleep in my car or could get around or something like that,
mm, mm,
but
mhm,
I knew people that were, sleeping on a sidewalk if they had to. Um, but, so for me to be in rehab and have my own room and have my own TV and have my phone back and all this kind of stuff, it just
mhm,
felt amazing. And I was so thankful for that. And then to
mm,
know that when I got out, I was going to be able to try to get my own place and and that just felt amazing. So my perspective was not about what I'm I don't have. It was like
mm,
what I'm getting, what I
mm,
have, uh,
mhm,
the
mhm,
possibilities that are about to come up for me. So it really changed everything around for me, and
mm,
I've really tried to keep that rock bottom perspective
mm,
even now. Like whenever whenever like I got that photo shoot offered to me and I almost backed out.
mhm,
And then I took it. And if I hadn't have taken that, none of this would happen for me. And that was huge
mm,
for me because I thought
hmm,
so many times I've had opportunities that I ghosted because I was afraid to
mm,
what if I can't do it? What if they say no? What if?
huh,
And after hitting rock bottom, I sort of lost that.
hmm,
It's like if they say no, oh well. You
yeah,
know, you know, I have an opportunity. I'm going to take it
yeah,
because I have nothing else. I have nothing to lose.
yes,
Who cares what
yes,
people think anymore? I
mhm,
didn't have all these feelings in my head that I used to. And I feel like that's why you see a lot of people in recovery who do big things.
mhm,
They go
mhm,
after things that they never would have gone before. And that's
that's
sort of
right,
how I've been. I've just, I now just, if I want to try to do something, I go after it and try it.
mm,
And most of the time it works out.
yeah,
And
mhm,
the more I do that, the more confidence I get. And things that used to not be in my comfort zone slowly start coming part of my comfort zone, you know.
mm,
But
mhm.
now I'm always trying to find ways to step out of my comfort zone just a little bit because I get too comfortable, and I don't think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I really love that. Thank you for saying that, because it is that rock bottom. I wrote rock bottom. Um, that rock bottom perspective. I'm going to steal that. I'll probably write a newsletter on that. But yeah, that rock bottom perspective where you have nothing to lose. What do you have to lose by trying?
Right.
You know?
Even if they say no, you learned from it, or maybe something else good might come out of it. But just trying makes you feel confident. Like, okay, I can try that again, and maybe you'll try it differently next time, or maybe it wasn't even it wasn't what you wanted to begin with, but at least you learned by trying. So I've anytime something scares me now, and I get that old feeling of wanting to back out, I'm like, crap, I've got to do this now.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because I think that's good for listeners to pay attention to is when an opportunity is presented, if your first thought is why it won't work,
Right.
or why you will fail,
or I can't do this, or I'm not good enough.
Yeah, those are just protective thoughts, protective parts of you, but if you have those thoughts, that's a clear sign that you need to take a step. You need to
Right.
take a step forward right into it.
Right. And I feel like people in addiction, part of our comfort zone is using, and part of our comfort zone is only hanging out with the people we use with.
Yeah.
And so our bubble gets smaller and smaller
Yeah.
of what we're comfortable with. And I wouldn't even go hang out with someone that didn't use, or, if someone asked me to do something and I knew, like a hookup or anything, and I knew they didn't use, I would usually back out, because all of a sudden I wasn't comfortable being around them anymore. Because, I wouldn't go to a movie. I didn't do all the things that I used to do before I used. I would end up staying at home by myself watching porn most of the time,
Yeah.
instead of hooking up with someone. It's just my comfort zone became smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And so now I've tried to just keep expanding it, because, like before, my life was, every day was the same. It felt like, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to use or look
Yeah.
for drugs so that or look for somebody I can hang out with. And it was just always the same thing. And now it's like I have these goals and I go after opportunities. And it feels nice not knowing what the future holds, because it could be a lot of new things. And before, it was just always the same,
Yeah. Yes. Love it. Well, speaking of opportunities, you were approached, you said, a year into recovery by a photographer, and
Yes.
it's funny you said it. I have messages from some photographers who just want to fuck, right? I mean, you did kind of think that, but this was a legit, he needed somebody for romance book covers, and specifically saw you. Is this
Yeah.
right?
He hit me up and said, um, I I was in a Facebook group.
Okay.
It's like gay guys who are into bodybuilding and things like that,
Okay.
fitness, and they would post about their progress and things like that. So I had posted in there about some of my progress, but I would also share some of my story, and I showed pictures of me in rehab and pictures now and that type of thing. So he hit me up and he said, and he's like, I love your look and I love your story. He goes, the silver fox look is really big right now. He goes, I need a new silver fox model. Would you like to do one?
Ah,
And so, you know, that that was, I had so many insecurities from all the years of doing drugs.
yeah.
The insecurities about myself. You have people you know who just take advantage of you and different things like that. And so I would always make it about myself when things would happen. Like, I'm not good enough. And
Yeah.
even other junkies don't even want to do, or they're just using me for what they can get from me, that kind of thing. So my self-esteem was really low, and I didn't really feel great about how I looked all that time. So when he hit me up, that was, all these insecurities started going in my head again.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, I'm not that person anymore. Um, this is just an amazing opportunity to shoot with an amazing photographer. If I don't sell a single book
Yeah.
cover, who cares? I just want to take this opportunity. It's still a huge honor that he asked me.
That's
So
right.
I decided to do it,
Yeah. 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 Interesting that you didn't. It's not like you were pursuing it. It came to
No,
you, and you still were thinking you weren't good enough.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I still have those thoughts go through my head,
Hmm.
like, um, people, like I go to book signings and authors will fly me to a book signing event, and I will sit at a table and sign books and take photos with readers, and it's so weird because
I love that.
it feels like I'm a celebrity in that
Hmm.
world,
Yeah.
and then I walk out of there and I'm like, who is this person? Like, that's not me. This is not my life. It's
Yeah.
like, but like I left this one. I had this one event I went to, and um, after the main book signing, they had like a ball kind of party thing afterward, and uh,
Mhm.
I had a photo shoot the next morning, but I went for a little while, and the readers and stuff there were, they had a few drinks, and so they were a lot more. Uh, Aggressive than they were maybe at the signing. So people were coming up to me and talking to me and asking for my autograph and take pictures with me and telling me how they loved following me and reading about my story and that I've helped them and maybe a family member that's an addict. So, it was very overwhelming. And so
Mm.
I left the party, got on the elevator and just started crying. It's like,
Mm.
I was sleeping in my car like 4
Mm.
years earlier,
Mm.
and this is my life, you know?
Wow.
It just felt so overwhelmingly, like, blessed.
Mm. Yeah. Wow, love it. Just all because you said yes.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
whenever whenever he asked me to do that shoot too, it was, like, perfect timing because, um, like, I really needed that, I think, like, when you're
Mm.
using you spend so much time and energy and focus on using and finding the drugs and whatever it is, but there's so much energy develop, towards using. And so, it was nice. I'd been working out and trying to really focus a lot of that into my diet or working out and this and that. But this just gave me something even more to work
Mm.
towards.
Mhm.
All of a sudden I'm having shoots, and so I need to be even in better shape. And I also finally had something that was really amazing happen for me that
Mm.
I didn't want to mess up.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
anytime I thought about using, I thought, no, I could sabotage all this. And I have something good. I have a good
Mm.
life. And I know so many people get clean and their life just doesn't seem any better. And I understand like their circumstances. Maybe they didn't have a family. Maybe they
Right.
end up having to go back and living with some of the same people that they used to live with
Mm.
that were, it was an unhealthy relationship or family that they had a toxic relationship with.
Mm.
So I know how hard it would be to stay clean in that type of situation because you're like, my life's no better, so why not use?
Right.
But I
Yeah.
had something that was like, oh, I have such an amazing thing going right now. I don't want to mess this up. So it
Mhm.
was so nice
Mhm.
to have that
Mm.
to kind of keep me going and keep me on my
Yeah.
path.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And if you're listening and you say, "Yeah, but I don't have the body for a romance cover novel, or I don't have this cover opportunities." The thing is that you can also latch on to a vision for your future in the same way you had that, right? If
Right.
you if you have a strong, viscerally emotional connection to a vision of who you want to be, you can latch on to that, and that can also say, when you want to use, do I want to be that person, my future self, or do I want to be my past self?
Right.
I get to decide right now, right?
And I
So
feel like you still have to keep that rock bottom perspective,
yeah.
and whenever you start thinking about what you don't have or what's not going well for you, that's when you're going to use. But you
Hmm.
have to then go, but I used to not even have a place to sleep, and now I do. Or I
That's
used
right.
to not have a way to even get around. I didn't have any money, but now I do. So you just really have to start keeping up with all the things that you have that you didn't
Yep.
have before, and
Yep.
that helps that perspective.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly right. Anywhere I worked in recovery, people would be bitching about their job or their
Yeah,
boss, and I'd be like, "Fuh, who gives a fuck?" I overcame crystal meth.
right,
Just throw whatever you want at me because it ain't going to be anything like what
right,
I've done. Right.
right,
And I think that's such a strong affirmation. If I can stop crystal meth, I can do that. I can
right,
handle that. I can
right,
face that. Right.
right.
You really have to you really have to go back and pull that drive, that all of that gratitude, all of that forward, and push you through some of the dark periods or some of the negative thoughts, like you're saying.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, when I started over completely, like I was in some apartments that were, very kind of rough. And,
Mhm.
at first it was really hard to get a job. But, like I had a place to stay though,
Mhm.
and I had a
Right.
car and,
Right.
I wasn't, like I would be laying in my apartment watching TV and I was like, there were so many nights I was like in my car and it was cold or it was hot
Mm,
and I was hungry and I just would
mm.
love to have had a place to lay on a couch and watch TV,
Yeah.
and I have that. So it was just
Yeah.
like it was I would always try to focus on things like that. And it
Mm,
really kept me grounded. And
mm.
people always thought would, well, don't focus so much on the past. I'm like, but you need to remember that stuff.
That's right.
It's good to
That's right.
remember that stuff because it makes you grateful about where you're at now.
That's right.
Um, and so when my following really started to grow after I started doing the modeling thing, my Instagram just exploded. Like
Yeah.
it was like I would get 10,000 new members or followers like a month. It was just really kind of crazy how it grew. And so I was like, okay, I've been given this platform for a reason. So I
Mhm.
have to use it for the right
Mm,
thing. So
mm,
whenever I started, just sharing my story more, it's like the reaction I got was amazing. The love and support that came my way, and it used to be this dirty secret I had. And now I was taking ownership of it. And the more I shared, the more I connected with people,
mm,
the more it freed me. And
mm,
so I shared more of the
mm.
good, bad, the ugly.
Wow.
And as I did, people would be like, thank you for being so vulnerable. Thank you for sharing that
Mm,
because I needed to hear that.
mm.
And they were like, I thought you had this perfect life as a model, whatever. And I'm like, I had no idea, you know. And so it freed me because I took control of the narrative.
Mm,
And it
mm,
used to have so much power over me because I
mm.
was so afraid of what people would think if they
Yep.
found out stuff. And they couldn't use
Mhm.
it against me anymore because
Yep.
I used it the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
And it also kept me accountable because I was putting it all out there.
Yep.
So if I slipped up, everybody knew
Yep.
I was in recovery. So, it's like I knew kind of people were watching me and it's like I didn't want
Mm,
to let them down either. So it was kind of like nice to have that as sort of a deterrent to even want to mess that up as well,
mm,
So it was just really nice to kind of like share that. And also, when I was an addict, I never saw anyone make it out. I
mm,
saw people go to rehab, go to
mhm,
jail,
mhm.
get out, start all over again.
Yep.
If they did make it out, you never heard from them again. So they wanted to kind of keep it a secret. So I determined I wanted to be the person that I needed to see when I was in addiction. And then when my life became so like, like, um, like such a stark contrast from being homeless to doing what I'm doing, I were like, well, I really have to share that because people need to see that. Because so many times people think, oh, you can have a life after addiction, but it's not going to be all that great. And I wanted them to
Mm.
see not only can it be great, it can be better than you ever imagined.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think, there's so much stigma and there's fear that we have about admitting that we use meth. Like you said earlier, like it'd be okay if you were addicted to painkillers,
Yeah, yeah,
but it's
definitely.
meth. It's meth, so it's dirty, nasty, and you're in the dark.
Right. And I thought, well, they won't believe I'm using it for pain. They'll be sure you are. It's like in my head, I just assumed like they're going to look at me as a junkie instead. Um, but then whenever I started sharing my story, I I would tell people, I was like, I want you, when you think of a junkie, instead of thinking of that person down at the gas station that was asking
Mm-hmm.
for money, picture
Mm-hmm.
me,
Yeah.
because I was that person, the same person that you're thinking, is, that you're saying all these amazing things about. I'm that person. So don't think of people who are on drugs as a junkie as a bad thing. There's
Mm-hmm.
someone who has just had a really hard time in life
Yep.
and they're struggling.
Yep.
So they're not a bad person
That's right.
because of it.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you for that too. Yeah. There's one thing about chemsex is that it's all walks of life. It definitely is not a specter of persons, right?
No,
I mean,
right,
there's doctors, I have lawyers, I have CEOs in my program. We're all hurting in some way,
right,
right? But I love that the horny grandmas also get to have the context of seeing your story
right, right,
makes
right.
you really real,
Yeah, and and a lot of them have told me that, like, thank you so much because my grandchild is going through something like this, and I
Oh,
now know
I
how
love
I now
that.
know how to to talk to them, or they're like, I share your posts with them and that kind of thing. So that makes me
Mm.
feel really good.
Yeah, thank you for that. So something you said too about controlling the narrative. That's the thing is if we don't control the narrative, the queer community or the heteronormative community at large will control it for you.
Right, right.
Everyone else around you will fill in the blanks and tell your story for you if
Yeah,
you don't control the narrative. And I think there's a difference too. If so, what I've been hearing a lot about guys, and this is something that I did at first when I first started dating. I would just on my profile and on the first date, I'm a former meth addict, blah blah blah. I have HIV. I would just go down I have kids, blah blah blah. I would go down every
it's
check
it's like
check
it's
box.
it's almost like you're protecting yourself, so
Yes,
that yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
shame, but it was out of shame,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
Right.
here's all my red flags. If you will still pay attention to me, I'm lucky to have you.
You're
Yeah.
I'm the same way because you're still afraid that you're gonna like them, and then they're gonna find out, and then you're gonna be hurt because
Right.
you feel rejected.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's a difference between sharing your story from a place of shame and sharing your story and again to control the narrative to give hope to the hopeless.
yeah,
The guys out on the street now, or the guy right now at the chemsex party who doesn't want to be there, but he doesn't know how to stop.
yeah,
Sorry. And and it just cannot see their way out of it. But they see you and they
yeah.
see this is possible.
Right.
Yeah. I love that.
And that's another reason why too I've been really big on sharing the fact that um because they see my life, because they see me doing these sexy photo shoots with other models, they assumed I was like having this amazing sex life too. And I was like, you know what? I've been celibate.
Yeah.
And they couldn't understand that. And I'm like, not everybody's triggers are the same.
Hmm.
Some people can't do certain things because it's trigger that I can do. I can take a
Yeah.
pain pill if I need to. If a doctor
Right.
gives it to me, I can have a drink and it doesn't trigger me.
There you
I can
go.
have Adderall, it doesn't trigger me.
There
But
you go.
sex did.
Yeah.
So I had to stay away from sex.
Mm.
Everybody's addiction is different. So everybody's recovery needs to be a little bit different just for them, because we all really are, if we're honest with ourselves, we know what will trigger us.
Amen to all of that, sir.
Yeah.
Amen to all of that, sir. Yes. So about your sexual journey, you were celibate, you said, for like 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
7 years later, you are getting into it. So you were saying earlier that, you kind of toyed with porn. You saw it was a trigger.
Yeah.
Sex was it seems like maybe sex was a very slow start, and you started to dabble in it. Can you tell us about that journey just a little bit? And if I'm in your place, like if I'm in recovery and I don't have a libido right now, um, that's one stage, and the other stage is I'm getting my libido back, but I don't know even where to start.
Yeah. This has been a long journey for me. And there was always this part of me that was real, I just focused on other parts of my life. And I was like, you know what? I really don't have a sex drive. And so why fight it? And I kind of avoided it, I believe, in a way.
Uh-huh.
It was easy to avoid, but when I was living in Alabama, there was really no one I was interested in and hooking up with anyway. So it kind of made it easier, and I really just focused on me. And I have gotten so much done that probably I wouldn't have if my focus had been distracted elsewhere. So it really was good in a way when I was celibate to focus on me and not. I'm really bad when it comes to other people about losing myself and being what they want me to be and this
Mm,
kind of thing. So I was really nervous about hooking up with someone, really liking them, and losing some of the power that I felt like I had.
mm,
And I felt like could that be dangerous to lose that? And I
mm,
was a little afraid. So I felt like that was part of it. The other part was um, I was afraid to put myself out there because I knew that everything wasn't really working just right.
yeah.
And to put myself in a situation where I felt the other person was disappointed, all these feelings, I was so afraid all those negative feelings were to flood back in my head, and that would make me want to use. So
Mhm, mhm,
I just kind of avoided it for years. When
mm,
I got back to Atlanta, um, I, I realized, okay, there's people here that I'll probably will be attracted to. Some people here that already know my story. Um, I feel like the way you would kind of go down your list of all the things that you wanted them to know about yourself.
mhm,
Before I even think about hooking up with someone now, I still feel like I need to just do this disclaimer.
mhm,
Where I'm at. In a way, I feel like it is sort of protection, but also I want to go in there if they know my situation and they know that I'm still trying to work on things that I get in my head and think everything might not work the way I'm
mhm,
hoping it would,
mhm,
then it's not going to feel as awkward and there's not going to be
mm.
as many expectations
Yeah,
because if I get in there and I feel like I'm a disappointment because they're expecting it to be one thing and I couldn't
yeah,
perform,
yeah.
um, I will get in my head again.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like because I haven't had any experiences really not using in so many years, I want the experiences I do have to be good ones and not
Mm,
feel like I left feeling it went horrible because then I feel like that could just take me down the wrong road or make me
mm,
decide not to even try again.
mhm.
So I'm just trying to be really careful the
Okay.
experiences I do have to try to not have to have low expectations going in, like,
Yep.
maybe just let them know, maybe we can just do some making out, that kind of stuff at
Yeah.
first or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's no expectations. And I don't feel pressure. And then
Right.
if more happens, great. But there's not going to be the expectation. So I'm just trying to be smart about the way I handle it right now.
Okay.
Not just to go to some random hookup, type of thing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So there's some conversation that happens quite a
Yeah.
bit,
And
it
I
sounds
also
like.
don't know. I also want to make sure that person's not going to be using. Because if
Well,
I
yeah.
get that situation and even though they say they're not, and I know they are, that could be really triggering.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. 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 It's interesting too, because I'm gonna show your Instagram page on the video in just a minute, but um, I wonder what the pressure is for a man who looks and is built like you to be Superman in the bedroom.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
expectations,
Right. And,
right?
like I'm this, on most of my books, I'm daddy this, daddy that. So if they're
Right.
wanting me to come in and be
Daddy.
super daddy, whatever, and I'm feeling extra pressure
Yeah.
to take on that role,
Yeah.
that could be a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't any of us just have sex anymore?
Right.
I
Exactly.
mean, the roles you have to play and the things you have to do, and because you saw it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to get into all that. But it sounds like you're being very cautious. You're being very intentional.
Yeah.
You're not just jumping right out there.
Right.
You are not setting yourself up for failure either.
Right. And
These are all good.
it's tough to know if I'm avoiding sometimes or if I'm just being careful, but I think I would still rather avoid than do something
Hmm.
that's going to cause me
Hmm.
to mess up,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
even to start having negative connotations about sex again
Hmm.
unless I'm using, type of
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
If I have
Yes.
some really bad experiences, I'm going to go, see, I
Hmm.
can't have good experiences
Hmm.
unless I'm using. And
Yep.
so I'm really just trying to have some really good experiences that maybe doesn't have to be about full on sex. Just so that I can start feeling sexual again and it go
Hmm.
well, and
Hmm.
then move on from there,
Yeah.
because it
Your side.
seems
Go
like when
ahead.
I am comfortable with somebody, a bit, it's like as I get more comfortable, then things get better.
Yeah.
And so,
Yep.
like getting with now I'm going to have to sort of like get comfortable with. I really kind of only been with one person at this point.
Hmm.
Again, that I've gotten comfortable with. So now I
Okay.
feel like I need to start getting comfortable with it being someone new,
Mm.
type of thing, and not just
Mm.
start getting in my comfort zone with that one person and thinking, oh, I
Hmm.
can't do it with anybody else. So I'm just trying to slowly expand on
Yeah.
what my comfort zone is, because, the idea of dating, of hooking up became such a stress for me thinking about it after not doing it for 7 years. It
Yeah.
just seemed like a big deal. And I'm like, that used to be such a comfort zone for me. And I need to like get back to that, to where I'm not making it a huge deal in my head,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. That's right. That's right. You're side daddy. That's what you are. You're that new position who we have, side, where
Uh
it's everything
huh.
but. um, so I want to point out, I want to highlight something you said, and that is there's a difference also in avoiding sex out of fear and
Yeah.
avoiding sex out of intuition,
Yeah.
like intuitively knowing that this probably isn't a good idea for me based on where I am, what my triggers are. But it's not like you're doing it out of fear, but you have a plan. I mean,
Yeah.
you're very intentional about every decision you're making right now, aren't you?
Right. I am. And I feel like I need to be,
Mm-hmm.
um, like, coming back to Atlanta, I worried about, this was where I was in the darkest years of my life. And I
Yeah.
thought, well, that scared me a little bit. But then coming back here, I realized, well, I'm not that same person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't want the same thing. So that's been good, because I faced that fear and realized that wasn't a problem for me. Um, but when I do put myself in certain situations now, like, I went to an event that is a pool party that is also, like it's they raise money for charity every year, but it's
Okay.
also very circuity in a way.
Okay.
So, uh, I wanted to go because I hadn't been in years, but I also knew that that's where I had used before. There'll be people that will be there. I'm sure that will be on ecstasy, and I'll see that kind of thing. And so I made sure that I went with the right people and hung out with them, and it went really well. So
Mm-hmm.
when I do things these days, I am very intentional about how I do it and try to do it smart. That I don't want to just feel like, okay, I'm good now. I'm not that same person. I can put myself in any situation, but some
Mm.
situations might be triggering. I
Mhm.
don't know that yet. So I'm just still really smart about when I do put myself in certain
Mhm.
situations. And I feel like I'll have to be that way with hooking up or sex as well.
Yeah.
The type of person that I hook up with, do a little bit of vetting to make sure they really aren't uh, using.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
then also just sort of talk first about what's expecting. If they're expecting a whole lot, then I might not want to put
Mhm.
myself in that situation. If they're okay with whatever I feel comfortable with,
Yeah.
then, then I'll feel comfortable.
Yeah. 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 And you can find these men.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can find them. You have to search. And again, just like if there's a theme on here about sexual reintegration, it's patience,
Yeah.
patience and time, and not catastrophizing, right? Because you could catastrophize and say, like you said, you have one bad experience, and all of a sudden you're never having good sex again,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
But that
Or
is,
I
yeah,
start getting in my head every time I have another experience, I'm going to be in that same headspace as I used to be,
yeah.
you know?
Oh, right, right,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly right. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's show your page real quick. You have 201,000 followers on
Yeah.
Instagram. Like you said, you were getting 10,000 a day at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, 230 plus romance book covers. Good for you. Oh, you're a veteran. You're a veteran as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for
I
your.
actually went through rehab through the VA. So that was nice to have
Oh,
them.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, we see Kevin Davis's body here rocking. Silver Silver Daddy. But looks like you said you're crossing over into modeling. So
Yeah.
you the suits, this cover. These aren't, I mean, that's not a book cover, right?
Right. That's the
Um
magazine. Yeah.
yeah, yep. Yeah, so we have being claimed by two daddies. Oh, double daddies. Now that's a book.
Right.
That sounds like a porn.
It
Yeah,
does.
yeah. But yeah, good for you. You really have. I mean, your page, yes, is sexy, but it's also, you could tell you have a grateful, content smile on your face. And again, I want to get your skincare routine because I look older than you for some reason. But yeah, this is great. I love this page. If you're listening, go follow. He's at Kevin R. Davis .official. He is the silver model Kevin. And he is Silver Daddy. He's Side Daddy too. So, what did I miss today, Kevin, that you wish I had have addressed or brought up?
um, I feel like we pretty much touched on pretty much
Mhm.
everything. Yeah. I just I just think it's important for me to um, you know, because so many gay guys I feel like deal with this,
Mhm.
and so many of them deal with it privately.
Yeah.
Because I know so many people who were like me who, even though I had gotten pretty bad, I still kept it pretty quiet. But I know a lot of guys have hit me up and um, they're like, "Can I talk to you?" And I'm like, "Sure." Like, they're like, "Nobody knows this,
Mm,
but
mm,
I'm doing this, and I feel like it's starting to become an issue."
mm,
And so, it's been nice to uh, feel like, you know, I will hear from a lot of people, give me people, but for every person I hear from, there's so many people that I'm not going to hear from, that maybe I'm reaching, that maybe they
mhm.
needed to hear what I said. And
That's right.
so, every time I think people are getting tired of hearing me talk about this or whatever, I have to realize I'm like, no, because, they might need to hear that today. Or
Mhm,
maybe they haven't seen those posts of mine and they've only seen the other post, and or maybe they're a new follower and they don't know my story yet. So it's like I do try to always sort of put it out there. I just had
mm,
a publication here in Atlanta interview me, and uh they we posted it yesterday, I believe. But like I was able to, it allowed me to pick the questions that I wanted asked. And so I
mm,
was able to sort of like
mm,
uh navigate what I wanted to share. So I was able to share a lot of my story. So I try to share as much as I can because it is a huge part of my success in, my recovery. If I hadn't have gone through everything I've gone through, if I hadn't have hit rock bottom, um, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I know that. It really, that perspective really did drive me. And I feel like sharing my story also helped my success because people, well, even the photographer said, I like your story. I'd love to shoot with you. Other authors have been like, I love your story. Thank you for always sharing. I want to put you on my book cover because of it. So I feel like being honest not only helps other people, but it's helped me tremendously. So I'm just going to continue to try to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that very much. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you. There was something that it just lost. There was something I noted when you were talking, and now I lost it. But I'm I must not belong in the podcast for some reason. But yeah, thank you for telling your story. Thank you for being out there. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And
well, thank you for having me. I haven't really done a podcast in a while, and anytime I get a chance to like sort of share my story with people, I love that. So
yeah,
I appreciate it.
Good. Well, I'm sure you're going to help someone or more all around the world with this. Thank you. If you'd like to join in the conversation, you can start a thread on YouTube or Spotify. You can also go ahead and DM Kevin directly. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Or if you want to send a message to me, I'll forward it to him. Either way, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and I hope that you will listen really close to how the sexual reintegration part of what Kevin has shared. It's very much in line with what we've heard from other men. There's some nuances there that I think are important, but this is important information for so many of you who are messaging me and saying, I'll never have sex again. Or I've been celibate for 10 years. I'm not even going to try. Sex is impossible. I just got that comment on a reel yesterday. And the guy said,
up until 4 or 5 months ago, I probably would have said the same thing. I thought I might not ever have sex again. And, I'd come to terms with it, but I also had a sadness about it. And it made me feel like I was broken and maybe I would never be able to love again. So it feels nice to be able to tell people, even I thought I couldn't, and it's happened for me.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. All right, guys. We will see you all next week.